Hello Rainbows! Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about my last week of being pregnant and my early labour symptoms. All that good stuff. But before we get right into it, I did want to say, obviously I am filming at home for quite a while. And for my next few videos I am going to be mainly doing vlogs about my labour experience and my experience with stretch and sweeps and all that kind of stuff. So there is going to be a few kind of baby related videos for a little while until I kind of get in more of a routine. Also, I have sadly lost my charger for my main camera. So I am filming on an old camera, which yes, does have autofocus, so you guys will hear that, and I can't attach my microphone, so sound quality is not going to be the best, so I do apologize. Bear with me. I was going crazy. I'm like, I need to film a video, but I just don't have my camera. And little Miss is over in the corner, so you might hear her kind of move around and playing and stuff like that, so yes. My last week of being pregnant was not enjoyable at all. When I was 39 weeks and 5 days, I did have a stretch and sweep done at my doctor's. My nan was overdue with her babies. My mum was overdue with me, so I did kind of feel in the back of my mind that I was going to be late, even though I really wanted to be early. But I'm like, okay. So when I did have an update with the doctor, she's like, okay, so we probably won't let you go over 41 weeks or too far over 41 weeks. I know that they can let you go to, well, I think actually the doctor said to me they'll let you be 10 days over where I live. But I know you can go up to 42 weeks and stuff like that. So she's like, all right, so we can book you in for a stretch and sweep to try and get things, moving along, and we'll see how you go from there. So I was like, sweet. So I was booked in for a stretch and sweep when I was 39 weeks and 5 days. So that was not fun. I have done a video all on my stretch and sweep experience. If you guys want to know the ins and outs and all the nitty gritty of my experience with it and want to know more about it, then check out that video. The rest of the day I did feel kind of crummy and crampy and stuff like that. At the doctor's appointment, everything was all sweet. Head was engaged still. It had been engaged for quite a few weeks. I was 1 centimeter dilated, so obviously when she did the stretch and sweep, she did an internal exam as well. So she's like, yeah, you're only just 1 centimeter. She said my cervix was still really quite high and quite long, and still did feel quite thick. So I was like, definitely I'm going to be overdue. By the sounds of that, I was like, okay. So the next day after my stretch and sweep, that night, I was on the toilet and I felt this like, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? And I looked and I'm like, I lost my mucus plug, or the bloody shows. Do you know you can actually have multiple mucus plugs, which I know is really disgusting. So yeah, that was awesome. I was so happy though. I was like, oh my gosh, I lost the mucus plug, and thinking, it could be soon that I could go into labour. And I called my mum and she's like, oh my gosh, I lost mine. I was in labour the next day, and I was like, oh, so excited. So yeah, that was awesome. On my actual due date, which was the Saturday, we had an antenatal class booked. Better late than never, right? So what actually had happened was I didn't realise that the antenatal classes where I live were only one every month. And the one previous, I was still at work and couldn't get time off to go. So I was like, all right, I'll tentatively book in for my due date and we'll go, and yeah. So yeah, I did go. One of the first things they got us to do was like, a little kind of bonding thing, we'll get to know me type thing. They got all the women to line up in order from when their due date was. The lady taking the class was like, oh, hopefully no one's due tomorrow or anything crazy like that. And I'm sitting here like, I'm due today. So obviously I was like the first person to go, and I had to say my name and when my due date was, and I'm like, yeah, I'm due today. And they were like, what are you even doing here? And I was just like, oh my god. But yeah, the class is really good. Majority of the stuff I actually already did know because I was prepping for not being able to make the antenatal class, so most of the stuff I already did know. But it was really good for Lee to come and stuff like that, and they fed us, which was really good. So halfway through the class, so it was an all-day class, a massive storm hit. So yeah, that was pretty freaky. Like the alarms were going off in the hospital, it filled up with smoke, and we were just like, oh my gosh. And then walking out, it was just like mayhem. We were just like, what the hell has happened? Look at those trees that have just snapped. Hope everyone's okay. Oh, that one's landed on the car.
A violent storm has swept through Kalgoorlie this afternoon, uprooting trees and bringing down power lines. Wind gusts of up to 107 kilometres an hour tore through the region, and tonight thousands of residents are still without power.
It was sudden and ferocious. As the wild weather intensified, dozens of trees came tumbling down. A 107 km/h wind gust recorded at the airport. Branches strewn across roads, fences and even cars. After the rain came hail. 12 millimetres falling in just 15 minutes. Some swamped by flash flooding, with power knocked out to 4,000 homes and around a dozen commercial properties impacted. So far, no injuries have been reported.
Oh my gosh, and yeah, it turned out to be a epic storm that had hit. Like when we were in the antenatal class, we could feel it, we could hear it, and it was just crazy, but we had no idea how epic it was. So we got back home and, you know, checked our house out. Thankfully everything was fine. We had no power, and it's like, all right, you know, hopefully the power will be back on soon. Next day we had no power. The next day we had no power. We were out of power for 4 days. Those days were hot, they were muggy and humid. All the food in our fridge and our freezer, we had to throw absolutely everything away. And me already having enough of being pregnant, then to be in that situation of having no aircon, no way to kind of really relax and just chill out and take it easy in my last few days, because it was, you know, high 30s and it was awful. I was hoping and praying to go into labour just so I could be in hospital where they had power and air conditioning. Oh, it's alright. So yeah, those last few days were just awful. So then the Sunday came along and we're at Mum and Dad's place. So this is the day after I was due. And I remember being at Mum's place, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I had this sharp stabbing pain in my stomach, and I'm like, oh, ow! And Mum and Lee are looking at me, and I'm like, ow, ooh, ow! And then, you know, a few minutes would pass, and bam, again. I was like, oh my gosh! And Mum and Lee were like so excited. They're like, this could be it. All right. Hey, what are you doing? What's wrong? What is wrong? Have you got a pooey nappy? Have you? Have you? Or you just want cuddles? Just want cuddles? You wondering who I'm talking to? Oh, there you go. There you go. And yeah, Mum and Lee were so excited. They're like, you know, I actually think you're in labour. So they're like, you know, go home, get your bags, and we'll go to hospital and, you know, just get them to check you out. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So as soon as I got home, which is maybe an hour or so after, it pretty much stopped. And I was like, oh, okay. I ended up calling the hospital anyway and saying, look, this, you know, I think I've been having contractions. They were really regular, and then nothing. And they're like, all right, so judging by the sounds of that, we don't think you need to come in. But obviously if they do pick back up, then come back in, or if you feel that you need to come in. But, you know, at this stage, don't really think you need to come in. So I was like, okay. So I was hoping that they'd come back, but no, nothing happened. And I now think they were probably Braxton Hicks, because the pain of those felt different to actual contraction pain. They were very sharp and intense. And yes, they did hurt, and I know so many people say Braxton Hicks don't hurt, but yeah, they did hurt. And that was the only time that I ever experienced that, so I don't know. Anyway, the next day was the Monday, so that was our third day without power, and I had another doctor's appointment to have a second stretch and sweep done. So when I did have the first one, she's like, all right, if you haven't gone over the weekend, we'll tentatively book you in for another one on the Monday, and then we'll get you booked in to be induced on the Thursday morning, so having to go to hospital Wednesday night. So I had my second stretch and sweep done, and she's like, all right, cervix is still really high. It does start to feel, it is a little bit thinner. You're definitely still 1 centimeter, like you're more of a 1 true centimeter dilated. And yeah, so after that one, again, it wasn't really that pleasant. I did have more of like a mucus plug come out, so I don't know if that was more of the same one or if that was a new one. So the next few days we did have power back on, thankfully. Oh my god, I appreciate electricity so much. And then it came Wednesday night, and I was going into hospital to have my first part of my induction done, which was the Foley's catheter, and then have the actual induction the next day. So yeah, it was so worth it because we have this beautiful little princess. Hey, hello, look at you, you're so cute. So yeah, that was pretty much my last week of being pregnant. I literally tried everything under the sun to get labour started naturally, like everything you can think of. Flaxseed oil, eating pineapple, sex, rough road, driving, not sex on a rough road, bouncing on a ball, walking, exercise, spicy food. I didn't try castor oil, but I did, yeah, have the flaxseed oil, raspberry leaf tea, literally everything you can think of to try and bring on labour. I did, and none of it worked, because obviously I wasn't ready, but I was over it, and I was glad to be induced. So thank you guys for watching. There is definitely a lot more pregnancy videos to come, and as I said, if you guys want to know my experience with stretch and sweeps, then check it out, and hopefully that will answer some of your questions if you're in the same situation and getting a stretch and sweep done. So yes, love you guys, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.
Every day is just another day you should be spending with